I'm Joe Kirshner with American Water College. Watch as I use my 5-step approach to solve this problem.
We're looking at chlorine dosing. Here we have our chlorine cylinder, and there'll be a regulator on the chlorine cylinder. The chlorine travels through a chlorinator, some way of regulating chlorine flow. And the flow is typically, or the feed rate is typically given in pounds per day. And then we dose that to a storage tank or to the distribution system. So you regulate it in pounds per day for a specific dose in milligrams per liter. Well, the pounds per day formula that's commonly used to calculate how many pounds per day are added is pounds per day equals mgd times your dose in milligrams per liter times 8.34 pounds per gallon. So this is what I refer to as our basic pounds per day formula. Well, this formula can be rearranged in a couple other ways. You can solve for just pounds, and in this case we divided out the days from both sides. So the total pounds of chlorine dosed is equal to your volume in million gallons times milligrams per liter times 8.34. To calculate milligrams per liter, you simply take your pounds per day and divide it by your flow and your weight of a gallon of water. So this formula right here is this basic pounds per day formula rearranged for milligrams per liter. So these are three formulas you may have to use for chemical dosing, and in particular we're talking chlorine, but it could be fluoride, it could be any other chemical. The calculations are the same. And then one final specific to chlorine formula is the demand is equal to the dose minus the residual. And you may have to rearrange this formula to solve for dose, to solve for residual, or here it's already solved for demand. So just be aware that this might have to get rearranged as well. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a chemical dose problem. This chemical dose problem reads, calculate the chlorine residual in milligrams per liter if 10.8 pounds of chlorine is added each day to a system flowing 0.5 mgd with a chlorine demand of 1.5 milligrams per liter. So they want us to calculate the chlorine residual in milligrams per liter. They tell us that our dose is 10.8 pounds per day, our flow rate's 0.5, and our chlorine demand is 1.5 milligrams per liter. Now, since we're looking for the residual and they gave us the demand, one formula we're going to have to use is our residual formula. So our residual equals the dose minus the demand. Now they gave us the demand. We have the information to calculate the dose, and then ultimately we're trying to find the residual. So what formula do we use to get the dose using pounds per day and our flow rate of 0.5 mgd? Well, looking at our formula sheet, there's a formula that says dosage in milligrams per liter is equal to the pounds of active chemical per day divided by mgd divided by 8.34. So we'll use that formula. So our dose in milligrams per liter is equal to pounds per day divided by mgd divided by 8.34. So with that, we can skip step 3 and just simply plug in our numbers and do the math. So our dose will be 10.8 pounds per day divided by our flow of 0.5 mgd and 8.34 pounds per gallon. So when I take 10.8, divide it by 0.5 and 8.34, I come up with 2.59 milligrams per liter. So that's the dose, the chlorine dose that I'm dosing in this system. Well, if that's my dose and my demand is 1.5, I simply take the difference between my dose and my demand, and that will give me my residual. So plugging those numbers in, 2.59 milligrams per liter minus my demand of 1.5 gives me a chlorine residual of 1.1 milligrams per liter.
If you need additional help preparing for a state license exam, click the link below and we'll get you some more information about our license-specific exam prep courses.